Just so we're clear, my parents were never divorced and were still married on paper, but they lived separately and lived separate lives. I visited my mother every other weekend, but she'd never have time to spare for me, and I'd end up spending most of my time by myself in my room at her place. So that was my relationship with my mom, and it was strained at best, but we were on okay terms. She did see other men when she was separated from my dad, but I don't know if those guys knew about her marriage beforehand, and I never asked. As far as my dad is concerned, he never brought home any women, and even if he did see other women, I didn't get to know about it. They remained on good terms even while they were separated, since they'd parted mutually, and so co-parented me to the best of their abilities. Or, well, at least my dad tried to. My mother wasn't very keen on parenting me at all. I'm over it, though, and I didn't try to reconnect with her or fix my relationship with her after I left for college because I got too busy. College is also where I met my husband, and no, he wasn't a student there. I became friends with his sister during college in 1 year. I had to stay back during Thanksgiving since I couldn't fly back home due to a blizzard. My friend lived nearby, so she decided to invite me to her house for Thanksgiving dinner, and that's where I met my husband for the first time. I was 19 at the time and he was 25, so I thought the age gap was a little weird, and I guess so did he, but neither of us did anything about it. But we did become friends and kept in touch. We'd speak to each other almost daily for a couple of months and even hung out a few times. After that, there was just no denying that we had a thing, but he was really shy and didn't ask me out, so I decided to ask him out instead, and it was really sweet. He ended up saying yes and we started dating. After I graduated, I moved in with him, and about 6 months later, we decided that it was time to tell our families about us. I already knew his family and they seemed to like me. I was hesitant to introduce him to mine, though. I was cool with my dad, but I didn't want to introduce him to my mom because I just had a gut feeling that something would go wrong if I did. I didn't even know it back then, but yeah, I was right. I did end up bringing him home to meet my parents during the holidays nevertheless, and back then, I believed that it had gone well. I didn't notice that my mother had been really quiet during the whole thing and had been actively avoiding looking at either of us. I was just glad she wasn't saying weird crap about me or making backhanded jokes about me like she usually does. He only met my family a couple of times after that, and I didn't notice anything off at the time, so I had no idea about what my mother was thinking then. 7 months ago, my husband proposed and I said yes. My parents flew down here to be able to attend the wedding 4 weeks ago as a surprise. I was happy about my dad being here, but not too thrilled that my mom was here too, because all she did was nitpick my choices and try to bring me down. I wanted to send her home without any reason, but I didn't, because then my dad would leave with her, and I didn't want that because then my wedding day would be really sad for me. My dad wasn't exactly aware of the Cold War between my mother and me, and I didn't want to tell him about it either because that would just lead to a load of unnecessary drama, because he'd want me to confront the issue and try to sort it out with her, which I just really didn't want to do. So I put up with her just for my dad's sake, and in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have. For my own and my dad's sake. I'd finalized my florist and floral arrangements and decorations for the wedding about 2 months ago, and incidentally, my mother found out from a list that I'd left on my desk that she happened to be friends with my florist. She'd been visiting my husband and me, which they'd been doing often ever since she and my dad came by, but I didn't think much of it. I just figured that they were visiting us almost every other day before the wedding because I've been living away from home for a really long time, and I guess that my dad just wanted to see me more often, which is why they were visiting us so much before the wedding. I didn't find out that it was actually my mother's idea until yesterday, when I finally told my dad about my issues with my mother. Now, finally, it is the wedding day. 3 days ago, I was supposed to get married, but like I already said, I ended up in the hospital because my mother had swapped the hypoallergenic flowers I'd picked for my wedding for a bunch of pollen-heavy flowers. It triggered my asthma and I landed up in the hospital for the day, which obviously meant that I had to delay the wedding. It wasn't even just a couple of flowers.